welcome to the Mountainside Podcast. Our guest for this episode is 2022 Olympian Megan Oldham. Megan has been competing in slopestyle and big air competitions from Winter X Games, winning multiple medals. She's also the winner of a World Cup, better known as the Crystal Globe. She's had an amazing skiing career in a short amount of time. We were able to catch up with her before she took off to Beijing to compete in the 2022 Olympics. She's an amazing young woman. I thoroughly enjoyed recording this podcast, and I hope that you enjoy our conversation.
Awesome.
Here we go. Megan, welcome to the Mountainside Podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All the way from Canada.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm super stoked to talk to you. I think that you're our first professional skier. You're definitely our first female professional skier.
No way.
So congrats on that. And hey, congratulations on your X Games medal. This was it this month or was it last month?
It was just
It's always
last
at
week.
the cusp, right? It's like right at the end. Yeah.
It's such a crazy time. This part of the winter for us is really busy. So I had a blast in Aspen and now I'm home. So nice to have a little downtime.
Oh, that's awesome that you made it home and had a little break between what's coming up for you. Have you spent time in Aspen before? This is like the second or third X Games that you competed in here in Aspen, right?
Yeah, so I've actually only ever been to Aspen for ski competitions, which is kind of
okay.
funny. But this would be my third Aspen X Games. And then I was also in Aspen the year prior to my first invite for the Aspen. It's like a NORAM kind of level competition. So it's right before, it's kind of like a lead up to X Games sort of thing. Yeah. So I did a competition.
Okay.
I think it's called Aspen Open. So I did that. And then the 3 years after, I've been doing X Games. So super cool.
That's awesome. Is there anything special about Aspen than other places that you've been, or thing that you like culturally about Aspen? Or
I think
do you
the
even get to
thing-
see any of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. People always ask me about traveling, like what I like and enjoy and all that. But it's really crazy because we just spend so much time strictly at the hills training and competing. So I
Right.
haven't seen a ton of Aspen itself. But the thing that really sticks out to me is every year coming to X Games, like besides COVID, like the first year I went, it's just such a put on show that for us as skiers, like we're used to slopestyle where we show up and there's like honestly nobody on the course watching us. Like people are watching on TV, but that's it. So like showing up to X Games is so different. Like there's people everywhere. You've got like such a different vibe while you're skiing. I don't know. It's super cool to kind of see that side of it. So I really like Aspen just because I feel like it's such a good spot where tons of people are watching and you get a little bit more exposure. And it's just a really fun atmosphere for sure.
Colorado loves to party, so I can
They
attest
do.
to that.
They do. I remember the first year I went, it was with my mom. She came with me because it was my first X Games and she wanted to watch. And I remember we went and watched the half pipe final and it was insane. Like there were people like crammed in all along the two sides of the pipe. And I remember
Yeah.
there's people like sliding down shirtless on the ground. Like it's, yeah, crazy for sure.
Yeah, Colorado Mountain people are about the craziest, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I actually went to the very first one there, back when they were doing like freestyle motocross and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I used to do a bunch of stuff with Monster Energy. I see you rocking the Monster hat
Yeah.
tonight, so shout out.
For sure.
I think you're quite a bit younger than me, like half my age, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. But have you ever seen the movie Aspen Extreme? Probably
I haven't,
not.
no.
Okay,
no.
you need to check it out. It's about, I don't even remember exactly what it's about, but it's about skiing in Aspen, and it's like a ski patrol, extreme skiing type movie, but I think it's based
No
more
way.
on like backcountry skiing, yeah. And it's probably
That's
totally
cool.
cheesy. It's a cheesy old movie that you probably wouldn't be into, but I'll have to
It's a
go back and
classic.
watch that. Yeah. Did you do we have the Dew Tour that stops here too,
Mhm.
Copper Mountain. Did you do that at all? I know you compete in some of those.
Yeah, so I did do tour. It would have been 2 years ago. And then last year, I believe it was canceled because of COVID. And then this year, I had an invite to do tour and I was super stoked to be going. And then the competition before do tour, I uh, fell in training. I like hit the end of a rail and just honestly catapulted forwards and landed on my hand. And I ended up tearing the UCL ligament in my thumb, which sounds
Oh,
so random and like such a small injury. It's kind of a weird thing to have, but it was just such a like finicky thing that it was such a pain. I had to fly home, have surgery. I had to have like a good solid 3, 4 weeks afterwards, no skiing, just to make sure that it was fully healing properly before I got back on snow. So I missed Dew Tour, unfortunately.
God, I've always said injuring your hands is the worst, right? Like, because you do so much with them. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
So I'm right-handed, which is good because it was my left hand. So that kind
Okay,
of helps a
that's
little
good.
bit. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the nice thing for us as skiers is like, I think our biggest thing is protect the knees. So anything that isn't a knee
Right.
injury is like, okay, I'll take it.
Fuck me,
So,
not kidding. Because as far as you guys jump, like especially in the big air,
mhm,
it blows my mind.
it's
It's totally
crazy
impressive. Yeah.
for
Um.
sure.
So where is home for you now? You're in Canada currently, but are you living there full time or?
So I grew up and live in Perry Sound still now.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm only like 2 years out of high school, so I don't have my own place or anything like that. I come home in between training camps and competitions, but honestly, like with our team and the amount of traveling we do, I'm rarely home. Like I typically come home for Christmas. Sometimes we have like a week or two in between competitions, but even then, sometimes we travel to different places just to catch up on different training. So
I'm
it's
telling you
crazy.
some old man advice right now. I come from the rock and roll touring industry, and I lived in
Hmm.
Hermosa Beach, California for years. And I had a
Cool.
place there, like an apartment that I lived by myself, and I
Hmm.
paid people to take care of it while I was gone.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
true. I had roommates for part of it, but still, there was no point. Like, you're doing it right. So
totally.
save
Yeah.
that
I mean,
money and then
for sure one day I want to have my own house, but I mean, at this time, I'm just living the ski bum life and
yeah, hell yeah.
enjoying it.
That's great. Um, do you like living there, or do you have like grandeur vision of someplace else?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because Perry Sound is a really small town and it's close to Muskoka, which is really well known for like cottage country. So Perry Sound, where I live, is such a summer place, which honestly really works out well because Perry Sound in the winter is very boring. There's nothing to do. We have no malls, we have no community centers. Like it's empty in the winter. So when
And
I'm
it's outside
traveling,
of Toronto, is that, or somewhere
yeah,
around Toronto, right? If I
it's
remember
like two
correctly.
hours north of Toronto. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's the thing. In the summer, we get all the people from Toronto that come up because of Georgian Bay. So we have like 30,000 islands. That's kind of what we're known for. And everybody has cottages up here. So it's such a fun place in the summer because all my friends are off work. We're boating and, like going out, going to restaurants, that sort of thing, kind of just chilling. But in the winter, it's very empty. So it's kind of nice that I'm out in the winter doing my own thing, skiing and traveling. And then in the summer, it's nice to come home and kind of reconnect with everybody.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. So just some quick facts about you for our listeners that maybe don't know who you are. Um,
Mhm.
your disciplines in skiing right now currently are slopestyle and big air. You
Yep.
joined the national team in 2018, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere
that
around
sounds
there?
about right. This is like the start of my fourth year. Like I started right after the last Olympics with the Canadian team, so I've done 3 full years already with them.
Okay. And
Hmm.
then just to some highlights to your career, just looking you up today, you have an X Games gold medal, you have a
Hmm.
silver and 2 bronze, correct?
Yeah, and after my last X Games, I now have so one gold, two silver, two bronze.
That's awesome. Congratulations on all of that. Then you've
Thank you
also
so much.
won a Crystal Globe, right, or a World Cup?
I have, yeah. So Crystal Globe is like for us, it's basically they accumulate all the points from the competitions through the World Cups, and then they have one overall rank winner, whoever had like the most points from the accumulated World Cups.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you've only been at this at the professional skiing level for a few years, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been like a pretty quick acceleration for me with the sport, and it's so crazy. I never expected it at all.
Yeah, no, you've taken on like a storm, and I love watching you guys and anybody that competes in that, guys, girls, women. It's awesome. What is it like traveling? If you grew up in Perry Sound, what is it like traveling for the first time and then winning that medal for the first time? Is it a surreal moment, or was it something that you expected that you were going to go do? Was it something that you had been training for a long time?
No, for me, like it was such a crazy experience because growing up, I was always super into gymnastics and figure skating. I grew up doing those sports. I love them. I never wanted to change it. I did it all through elementary and high school, and that was just kind of my thing. And then my brother kind of coaxed me into trying skiing, and then I had a lot of fun when I started doing it. I joined his local team, and then like it seemed like towards the last 2 years of my high school, it kind of just blew up. I got noticed by the Canadian team, so I went for a training camp with them. And then next thing I knew, I was on the team and then competing at my first few World Cups. Like all that was such a big adjustment for sure. Like I was not used to being on the road for like a month, sometimes even 2 months at a time. Like that was really crazy for me as a high school kid. But of course I enjoyed every little bit of it. Like it's been so fun to kind of get to know my teammates and connect with them and meet new people all over the world. So I have enjoyed it so much, and I for sure want to keep doing it for a long time.
What was it like competing at X Games for your first time?
X Games for my first time was really a different competition. Like it's so hard to explain because it just World Cups for us are so much more isolated from the rest of the world. Like a lot of times they're not even broadcasted in Canada, which is really strange. So X
Really?
Games showing up, yeah, it's so weird. And like for me, I was pretty young. Like I guess my first X Games, I would have been like probably like 17, 18. So not that young, but like still pretty new to the sport. So showing up and hitting a course that big is crazy. Like it's just so hard because you look at it on the TV and you're like, oh, that course looks hard, it's big. But until you're there and you're standing beside these rails and you see
Right.
these little like closeouts and the gaps and the little like death drops and all these little things, it doesn't really hit you the same. So I remember showing up for my first time and honestly being like scared shitless. Like I was like, wow, I'm glad we've got 3 days of training in sled labs and 2 coaches because I'm going to need the time to adjust to this for sure. But
Right.
like overall, it's just such a cool experience to be part of that for sure.
Absolutely. It's I don't want to shit on any of the other competitions, but it seems like X Games is a little bit more like a laid back vibe just because of the nature and the culture, right? But it's also got some of the biggest hits and some of the biggest places to send it, right?
Totally. It's funny because we always kind of joke with my teammates and I that like X Games is the biggest event, yet we almost all of us feel the most relaxed there because it's just such a different atmosphere. Like you wake up, you do training, everybody's like saying hi to each other, people are filming you, and like you're seeing people on the chairlifts. Like it's not as like strict and regimented as it is when you're going to a World Cup. So it's really fun to ski there.
Yeah, and then I got to ask this too, because you being so young in the sport and what you've done, like you guys are helping, and ladies are helping progress the sport so fast. It's amazed me because I've been watching X Games since the very beginning, and then they had Winter X Games, and no matter what the competition is, whether it's freestyle motocross or ski big air or skate big air or BMX, it blows me away how fast the progression happens from going like to not even being able to do a backflip to doing multiple backflips or whatever that is in that sport. How is it keeping up with that and also being kind of on the leading edge with your competition?
Yeah, like for me, it's really blown me away as well. Like when I started skiing, it was like professionally kind of like right after the last Olympics. And I think that's kind of the turning point where things started to just explode, especially for the women. And you start seeing girls doing double corks. And I just remember wanting to be a part of that so badly and trained really hard and learned all my stuff I like wanted to do. And then over these last 2 years, like even from there, it's just exploded even further. Like every single year, I guess people just have more access to like airbags and training facilities, and like they're just seeing everybody progress so fast that like you just kind of have to do it to keep up. So it's super cool to see girls doing like 16s, for instance, tests at last X Games. And to be part of that's super cool too. Like I never really thought that women's skiing would get to this point within 4 years. Like if somebody told me
It's
that,
crazy.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like it's really, truly crazy because like even for me, I remember like it would have been even last year, like the beginning of the year in competitions, if you were doing a dub 10, like you were 100% going to be on the podium. And now I remember first World Cup of the season, we had a big air comp in Chur, Switzerland, and there was girls who didn't even make finals with doubles. And it was crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, nobody even knew that this many girls could do doubles. So it's so cool to see how far it's come, for sure.
Now, does that cause some competitor beef at all? Like, are your competitors pretty cool? Are you guys all supportive of each other, or is there some beef there?
I think freestyle skiing is honestly like the most laid back sport. It's exactly like snowboarding. I think it's just got this atmosphere where everybody's so laid back and just kind of there to do their own thing and like push themselves in the sport. So there's honestly not really any beef. Like everybody's super supportive. You see each other, you're hyping each other up. Like you want to see the sport progress. So honestly, like everybody's really good about like supporting each other and being pretty cool with all the progression.
I think that's huge in anything that you do. I mean, it's hard to try to compare yourself to somebody, for one, and then two, not have them support you. So
Totally. Yeah.
especially in a
sure.
solo sport, I would imagine. And I've never competed in anything like that, but I can only imagine what it takes to push it to that level. I also want to congratulate you on being invited to the Olympics to represent Canada, correct?
Thank you. Yeah. I'm on my way tomorrow, actually.
Oh, awesome. We squeezed this in just in time then, huh?
Exactly.
When exactly do you get to China, and what is the kind of buildup? Do you have time to go get some practice runs in? Are you going with coaches? Like what's coming for you starting tomorrow?
Yeah. So for us, how it works is because of COVID, we're all taking like one big charter flight. So we fly out to Vancouver tomorrow, and then we meet up with the rest of the people who are going out on the same flight as us. And the next morning, we all get on a flight from Van to Beijing, and then we land. Obviously, we got to do some like admin stuff, get our accreditation, and get tested, kind of settle into
Tickle
the
your brain.
accommodations. Yeah, do all
Yeah.
that sort of fun stuff that we're used to. And then like we have a few off days first, which is kind of nice because for me, the time change is 12 hours, which is absurd.
Yeah.
So we have a few days to kind of like get into that groove of the timing and sleep schedule stuff. And then I think it'll be probably like the 4th or something like that we have our first training day. And we have Big Air first, and then after Big Air, we go down to Zhangjiakou, which is a different village. It's like 4 hours away, and then we do slopestyle the following week. So it's pretty busy for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you're competing in slopestyle and Big Air at Winter Olympics, correct? Are you doing anything else, or?
No, that's it. And this is actually the first Olympics that they have Big Air for ski. So it's going to be super cool.
Oh,
All
really?
the athletes
Okay.
that are going. Yeah, they had snowboard at the last Olympics, but they've never had ski Big Air. So it's kind of cool for us because Big Air has only kind of just come into play in the competition scene in the last 4 years for us. And it gives you so much more opportunity for, I mean, both progression and results. So it's kind of cool that we get to experience both of that.
Which countries are showing up then for Big Air? I mean, there's got to be some countries out there where they haven't experienced that yet, right? Or they don't have any athletes that are competing. So I would imagine Canada's huge, probably some EU and
Yeah, for
America,
sure.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's definitely like big groups. I'd say there's pockets. So like obviously the bigger places, Canada, US, Switzerland has a good team. And then there's just a bunch of like little individuals that you'll find like throughout different nations. I know like it'll be kind of interesting to see after this games too, because I know like the Japanese riders and some of the Chinese riders are starting to get into it, but you can already see like, hey, these guys are going to be really good in like 5, 6 years from now. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of where it's taken by then.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be rooting for you. You'll have to keep us posted or tag us on any post or anything like that. We'd be glad to share that too. So
For sure.
your background, how did you grow up and how did you get into skiing?
Hmm.
What was
Yeah,
kind of the catalyst for all that?
for me, like growing up, my family's always been like super active. I feel like it's the same as like every athlete who has made it like to this level. You just grow up in a super active family. You've got siblings, really competitive nature, you know. And for me, my family would always go out west. We'd go like to Sun Peaks, like that sort of thing, go skiing there just for fun. We used to go to J Peak like every year, hit the water park and some slopes. And I always had fun skiing. Like I enjoyed it for sure. And like I said, I did gymnastics and figure skating. And I kind of think I like learned the acrobatic side of freestyle skiing from that. And then my brother just somehow found his way into the sport through friends and just shredding late night after school. And for some reason, like he thought that I would be a super good mix for the sport and that it would just click for me. And I don't know, obviously being like a stubborn sister, I was like, no chance, I'm not doing that. Like I've got my sports, you do your thing, but that's not for me. And he was pretty persistent and just kept telling me, hey, like you should really try this. It's cool. So eventually I kind of just gave in and I came and did like a little trial day with him and his team at a local mountain. And honestly, like one day skiing and riding with a team, I was like, that's it. This is what I want to do.
Wow. And at what age did you start skiing?
So I probably started skiing like downhill, all terrain kind of skiing when I was like 5 or 6 years old. But I didn't start freestyle until I was like 14, 15. So pretty late.
And were you a fearless kid? Because, I mean, kind of what you do now is, I mean, I'm sure that there is some fear involved, but pretty fearless.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like 100% a fearless person, but definitely like having an older brother helps. I see him doing all these crazy things at a young age, and I kind of just wanted to be right there with him. So I think I was always just kind of chasing what he was doing, and that brought me into that sort of realm of things.
Is your brother still skiing or?
He is, yeah. So he's actually on like a provincial team, and he's trying to get onto the Canadian national team as well. And he's been doing really, really well the last little bit. So it's super cool to see.
Awesome. What's your brother's name? You want to give him a shout out?
Yeah, my brother is Bruce Oldham. He's the one who got me into
Awesome.
it all. So I owe it to him for sure.
How many people have fucked up your guys' last name?
So many. It's kind of funny because I mean, I'm like used to both. I don't mind, but you definitely get the like
The
every
old-
now and
Yeah.
the old ham. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Like, yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, that's how it's
Is that-
spelled. So
right. Does that bug you guys at all when they do that, or?
it doesn't bother me at all. Honestly, like sometimes I even say it that way myself just because it's easier. But no, like it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's kind of cool. So
I'm drawing a blank here. Shit. What was I going to ask you?
no.
All right, we're going to have to come back to it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
But having a professional, because you are a professional skier, what does it take? And we've had some coaches in. The last podcast was a UFC coach, friend of mine. And, those guys are being a solo sport, right? where you're relying on yourself, mindset is huge, right? You can have all the physical training in the world, but what do you take into your professional mindset? Are you going into this kind of laid back, or is there a vision before you take your run? Do you have, some sort of ritual or anything like that you're doing before a run?
For sure, like I think the mental side of sport is huge, and I think people really underestimate it because it's everything. Like if you can't approach a competition in the right mindset, then you honestly have no chance because you're just not there. You're not in it. And I think like for one thing, I think I was really lucky in that I've kind of always just been like gifted with some sort of, I don't know what it is, but like I feel like I have a good sense of like competition mental like preparation. Like the way my parents like raised me, I don't know, just like for some reason it clicks with me and I'm able to kind of like just get into this zone where I focus and I'm like, this is what I need to do, and like I'm here to have fun. I don't put that much pressure on myself. It's just like, hey, like I know these tricks, I know how to do them, and all I have to do is just like go out there, enjoy myself, and do it how I always do it. So I wouldn't say I have like a specific routine. Like definitely I work with a mental coach and just try and focus on like the typical easy stuff like breathing and visualization on tricks that you're like having a difficult time with and that sort of thing. But like going into competitions, I strictly am just like, I'm out here to have a good time, and these are the tricks I want to do, and I'm just gonna focus on that and do my thing.
Awesome. You were breaking up there a little bit, but I think we caught most of it. So no, you're all good. We'll just keep rolling with it. That's the best part about this podcast is we do very minimal editing. I'm not even going to take out my fuck ups like the one from a few minutes ago.
Easy.
Not happening. So yeah, we were getting into, before the internet crapped the bed. We were getting into visualization, what you have to do mentally to prepare. I brought up Mark Montoya, and one thing that he does, these guys have bodies chiseled of stone, right, that are going in, and gals that are going in to fight, right, 5 rounds or 3 rounds or whatever it is. But Coach Mark takes a little bit different approach. It's not all physical, like he makes his fighters read books and like 1 book a month or something like that. And a lot of it is getting their mindset to the right space, and also enjoying the moment. He talked about that too, like enjoy your walkout, don't rush it, like before you get to the cage. So I would imagine, are you enjoying some of that along the way? Are you nervous before your run? I mean, how does that look leading up to it?
Yeah, totally. There's always like a little piece. I feel like for me as an athlete, I always get a little nervous, like in the training right before you have your competition. But I think like it's kind of the same sort of mindset going in that you're talking about, where you're kind of just focusing on like the things that are fun with it. And you're like, hey, like, look, I'm here in Aspen. Like, this is super sick. I've got the best course. Like, the weather's good. And you just try and focus on like the fun side of the sport and why you're there doing it, and just kind of enjoy every moment. And then those nerves kind of disappear a little bit because it just takes you back to the whole reason why you're doing it, and not so much focused on just the end result.
Do you have training partners? I mean, is there anybody that's right next to you that that you train with every day? Or I'm sure that you have some coaches to kind of guide you along the way.
Yeah, so we have a network through like Freestyle Canada in terms of like physios, and I have a sports psych that I talk to whenever I need. I have like a physical in-gym coach that I go see twice a week, that sort of stuff. And then like, I mean, when we're on trips, it's a little bit different. We have staff who travel with us, so we'll have a physio and a wax tech who's there to kind of just like help us out with little things wherever we need it. But like besides our teams, we have our sponsors and like whatever they offer. I mean, some sponsorships will offer a little bit of help in terms of like training and that sort of stuff.
That's great. And then are your coaches traveling with you for the Olympics? Are they the same coaches, or are you getting a new set of Olympic coaches when you show up?
Yeah, so our team consists of 4 coaches. So we have 2 on like our next gen team, which is kind of like where you start out when you come on the Canadian team. And then there's 2 coaches who are on like the A and B team. And for the Olympics, we have both the coaches from the A and B team that come. And then we have 1 coach from next gen. So there'll be 3 of them, which is awesome for us because it really works out well. Typically you have somebody at the top of the course who's like guiding you through what they think you should be doing on like rails and different features. And then you have somebody who's on the jumps so they can like radio back up and be like, oh, like Megan missed the grab or like she needs to go bigger, kind of like tips like that. And then there'll be like 1 more coach who's kind of just like floating around, taking shots of you so you can look at stuff, or at the bottom helping, like if somebody gets injured or that sort of thing. So it's nice to have so many staff to be there to really like cater to everybody's needs.
Absolutely. Now in practice, what puzzles me with big air, like that I can't wrap my head around with skiing, and you mentioned an airbag earlier, like I did a lot with freestyle motocross and supermoto, building jumps, and with my background, and helping be a tech for some of those guys. What do you guys do in the skiing? Are you jumping into foam pits or water, or you mentioned an airbag earlier? Is that kind of how you're practicing these crazy like big air tricks?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy too because that's how the sport has really progressed as well. It started where people who first came to the sport, like people like Mark McMorris, who were like a little bit older and towards the end of their career, started with nothing. Like they just go out, they learn their tricks on snow. That's how you do it. If you want to learn a new trick, you just gotta, you gotta just go and send it and hope you don't land on your
It's
back.
funny because that's how motocross progression was, like the same way, or freestyle motocross rather. Like the guys used to just send it on dirt, and it was, I mean.
It's insane. Yeah. I can't imagine. It's so respectable. I don't know how they do it. Like, I don't think women's skiing would be where it is today without, like, the new progression that we have in terms of training tools. Like, it's no chance.
Right.
Too scary. But, so, like, when I first started and was on, like, a local team, we would go to, like, kind of like, I guess you would call it, like, an aerial site. But they'd call it, like, a water ramp. So it would basically just be, like, a wooden ramp that takes you into this like big man-made lake, I guess, that has like bubblers that come up so that when you land, it doesn't hurt too much. So we used to do a little bit of water ramp training for learning new tricks. And then that kind of faded out when the airbag phase came in. So now they have these progression airbags, which you've probably seen like in a couple spots, but it's basically on the same angle that a landing of a jump would be. So they can put it just on snow or on grass, whatever. And then in the winter, you'll like take off on a jump. In the summer, we have one here in Quebec that is just made from like a wooden ramp. So you go off this wooden ramp and you land exactly like you would on snow, but on an airbag. And it's so crazy because it's so similar to what it's like being on snow.
Really?
Yet you can land on your neck and it'll hurt a little, but it's night and day. It's such a cool
that is wild
for sure.
It's crazy how technology has progressed sports as well, like
it's totally
for amazing.
Sure.
What
yeah.
So like on some of these, can you land backwards on that airbag like you do like your X Games runs in the big air? Like, I think every one of them this year you landed backwards, which trips me out too. Like, be hard enough to land forward facing for me. So, or at all.
It's funny because like when you get more comfortable with the sport, like I personally, and I would say a lot of athletes would find landing backwards easier.
Really?
Because you just don't have the momentum. When you come around and you're landing forward, sometimes you have like this momentum that makes you land really backseat on your skis, which makes it a lot harder to ride out of tricks.
Sure.
Whereas when you land backwards, you can be forward heavy and like control the weight of your upper body and you're not going to just like nosedive. But yeah, like on airbags, you can land sideways, up, down, wherever you want, and you're going to be fine.
That's awesome.
Like for sure, there's like little injuries and stuff here and there, but no, it's a cool training tool. But it's also interesting because airbags are probably the most controversial thing within our sport. Like, we don't hate on each other, but we'll hate a little bit in between, like the whole use airbag, don't use it kind of thing.
So it's a bit of a controversy, huh? Is it because some people don't have the means to use an airbag? Like, it costs money, I would imagine, and
it does, yeah. It's super expensive. I think it more like roots from the first generation of skiers and snowboarders who kind of came up and started the sport, and like it was such a kind of like loose free will sport, kind of like skateboarding. You know, there's no rules. You do this for fun. You do this for style. Like, you're just trying to show off like your own tricks, your own style. And like I think that some of the people who were like the first generation just find that it's too like by the book, and it just kind of takes the whole style aspect of skiing away.
I don't understand that. I think it's jealousy. I don't want to shit on any of those people. I'm probably going to get some hate mail over this, but I mean, how could you be mad at something progressing? Right?
No, for sure. I think, it's just like people have different ideas of where they want the sport to progress. You know, like there's some people who are like, we don't want to see people doing quad corks in every competition. Like, we want to see different features and different styles. So I kind of get it, but like I'm on the same wavelength. Like, you're pushing each other and you're learning. Like, I feel like now, like, athletes have kind of like gotten into a groove where we're not just trying to learn how to flip one more time over head. Like, I mean, you would see at X Games, Alex Hall doing a 2160. Like, nobody could have done that. Like, you know, it's something that you kind of need to work into. So, and
that's one thing about X Games. I'm amazed every year. Like, since day one, I've been amazed. Like, every year, watching that progression is so cool. For me, anyways, as a spectator. Sarah, if you're back there, can you pull up one of Megan's runs from X Games, a big air run of hers? I just want to watch one and have you kind of explain it, like if you were the commentator, and how you manage to land backwards and what's going on during that run. Like, what's going through your head, and how do you know where the hell you're at?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to. Okay, I think I see the video now.
All right, we're having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. Okay, we're gonna skip that.
Gotta love Perry's sound connection. We can do
we gotta do this in person next time, Megan. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely got to do this in person. It's so much better. But normally we don't have these type of issues. Normally everything works great. So I gotta ask. When you're in the middle of this air and you're doing these crazy corkscrews and grabs, and I don't even know what some of the tricks are named. I mean, I'm just going off of what the announcers call them, right? And then my brain doesn't retain much these days. But when you're upside down, inverted, flipping, how do you know where you're at and where the jump's at? Is it a feeling? Or are you spotting a landmark? Is there a post or an announcer's desk or something that you're focused on? Or
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to explain entirely. Like, there's a little bit of everything. Obviously, like, in certain tricks, you have places where you're supposed to be spotting. So, like, if you're doing a dub 12, first you're going to spot like on takeoff, and then when you're coming around after your first 7, you can kind of spot and see in front of you, so you can see, okay, like I'm going big, or like I need to slow down my rotation a little bit. So you have like little spotting points in most of your tricks, but also I think it just comes from a lot of repetition that you gain, kind of like this sixth sense where you can tell like, okay, like I'm too fast on the takeoff, or like I need to do an extra turn going into the jump, or like I need to wrap to like spin more because I'm not going to land where I think I'm going to land. So like I think a little bit of it is just like feel and repetition that you kind of gain from skiing so long. But for sure, there's some basic points.
It never amazes me how much the human body can adapt to do something like you're doing. Like, it's mind blowing to me.
For sure.
Do you have anything to get you? Here we go. Do you have anything to get you into the right mindset? Do you listen to certain music? Are you a metalhead? I mean, is it electric? Is it techno? What is it? Is it Katy Perry? Like,
I mean, it's probably like pretty generic in
Yeah.
terms of like what a girl listens to. I mean, I like I guess like throwback kind of pop, like
okay.
Justin Timberlake and Nicki Minaj, that sort of thing. But I have certain times where I like will go down and I'll just be feeling a little bit of rap or something someday, and it gets me hyped up. But it bounces for sure.
Right. And are you listening to music on your run? Like, I see some of these athletes with headphones in while they are skateboarding or whatever. It's kind of hard to tell at Winter X Games because you're bundled up, you got a helmet on, you got all this gear on, right?
Yeah, so I actually do listen to music like always when I'm skiing. I didn't used to, but I just find it's a good little way to take the edge off of the nerves and all the like anticipation. It's just kind of nice because you train and like you're used to just skiing and jamming out and having a good time. So when you're up on the course, you just do the same thing. You like plug in your music. I'll just say to my coach, hey, like fist bump me when I'm supposed to go. And then I know I can go because I can't hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you don't have to worry about anybody else yelling at you on the course since you're on it by yourself, right, at that point.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
No, I luckily have been fortunate enough not to mess up timing, like when to go or what. But
You had kind of mentioned a few minutes ago when we were talking about some cross training, strength and conditioning. Do you do anything like, are you a runner? Do you have a trampoline to practice on? Or you mentioned gymnastics. Are you still doing that?
yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always kind of just been a person who's dabbled in a lot of sports. So when I'm home, it's just another chance to kind of do that. I play soccer a little bit in the summer on like an adult league if I have time. I used to run a lot in high school. I was on the cross country running team, so I definitely do get a little bit into that. My brother's very competitive and he likes to run, so I mean, I can't quite keep up to him. He'll just wake up one morning and decide he's going to run a marathon for no reason. Crazy, I couldn't. But I definitely have a lot of sports that I kind of like mix in. I used to do adult gym sessions and coach a little bit gymnastics when I was home, but I just find like the more I'm doing with skiing, the harder it is to kind of find time to commit to those types of things.
But would you attribute some of your background in those disciplines like gymnastics or figure skating you'd mentioned as well to having the success that you have in skiing and the body awareness of where you're at when you're in the air and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, totally. I tell everybody that the reason I think that it clicked for me so well with freestyle skiing was because of my background in gymnastics and figure skating. It's cool because in gymnastics, they actually teach you like how to fall, which I think is something that everybody should know how to do because it's such a good body awareness thing to know. Like when you fall a certain way, this is how you should roll, or like this is how you know when you're at this point in the air, and like this is how you bail out. And that stuff comes huge with freestyle skiing. Like if you can't tell where you are in the air and you're coming down to the ground, like it's gonna be bad if you land the wrong way. So I learned some of the air awareness stuff like with gymnastics and flipping and basic backflips, front flips, like all that sort of stuff. And then I had the spinning aspect from from figure skating. And so when I started freestyle skiing, the only piece I was really missing was the off-axis flipping, because with gymnastics, you obviously only flip like on axis, you know?
Right.
So then I just started doing trampoline stuff, and I found it just really clicked fast because I had both sides of the spinning and flipping, and I kind of just had to put them together.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think I do jiu-jitsu, and I've just started in that in the last couple of years, and they were actually the first sport that I've ever been in where they actually taught you how to, like, okay, if you're getting thrown, this is how you want to land so you don't hit your head, right? In case you're on concrete or whatever, right? Or even on the mat. It hurts on the mat too. So there's certain things you do with your arms and bracing your arms and falling on your shoulders more than than you would like
Yeah,
your neck and
100%.
back. So that makes a total sense to me.
And you don't really think about those things, I don't think, like traditionally, but when you have those skills, it really helps because you already have this like fundamental basis that you can just rely on without even really noticing, you
And
know?
you practice it when you practice it enough, it becomes a motor skill, right? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
And it kind of needs to be
Hmm.
because sometimes you don't know when you're going to get wiped out or thrown on the ground or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you have to make quick decisions sometimes. Like, hey, like you'll see guys and they'll go to do like a triple cork, and then they can tell after two flips, hey, like I didn't have enough power on the takeoff, so they need to know how to bail out in the air because that's the scariest thing you have to do is like uncommit to a trick, but you
sure.
got to do it because otherwise you're gonna land really badly.
Have you had some really bad wipeouts or any major injuries from doing what you do?
I mean, like in terms of the sport and like the injuries that come with it, I've been extremely lucky. Like you have people who have two or three injuries, maybe even in a season, which is
Wow.
crazy. So like for me, I obviously had my thumb injury, which wasn't too bad. It's like 6 weeks recovery total, and you just wear a brace. And besides that, I did like mess up my meniscus a little bit 2 years ago, and I had a little surgery where I got a scope done, and then I had 6 weeks rehab. But like in terms of knee injuries, that is the most minimal thing you can ever have. So I've been really blessed with injuries. I'm really healthy at this point. No broken bones, knock on wood or
That's
anything. But
amazing.
yeah, no, it is for sure. And I'm happy. And I think the best thing you can do for that is just kind of like keep pushing and focusing on doing all the strength stuff that you need to do in the gym to make sure that your body's at the level that it competes at so injuries don't happen as often.
Now, I'm sure that you get invited to a ton of events. I mean, I would think that some of this comes into play and just seeing the sport or how to make money in the sport. Like I noticed when I was dealing with freestyle motocross a little bit, these guys would go out and like jump in a mall parking lot, you know, in in between competitions or whatever to make ends meet. But I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure that you have a ton of opportunities. Do you take every opportunity that comes along your way, or do you skip out on some competitions? Because I think that at some point you only have so many runs in your career, right?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely comes times in your career where you have to make tough decisions. Obviously, with injuries, then you kind of got to weigh things out and be like, hey, I'm maybe not ready for this comp yet. It's best for me to kind of sit out and get to that point I need to be at. I think like it really depends what kind of athlete you are too. Like a lot of people love competing, and then a lot of athletes just find, hey, like competing is not my thing, and like I'll do it because I still want to be part of the sport and like make a little bit of money and like have that competition side, but anytime I can take off, the better. I personally really like competing. I don't know why. I really enjoy it. So I take most of the opportunities that I can to do it because that's what I enjoy. But certainly like you have events that'll overlap and then you kind of have to decide this is where I want to go or do or whatever. But yeah.
We've beat up skiing so bad right now, but it's because I'm genuinely curious about it and what you do. So, but hobbies, what are you doing outside of skiing? Are you a mountain person? Do you like to get out? And you mentioned going to the lake. Do you hike, camp, anything like that?
Yeah, in the summer, I would say like with my friends, we spend a lot of time out on the lake. So I mean, wakeboarding, tubing even, which is kind of just more for jokes.
Sure.
Um, we also have like an in-ground Olympic trampoline at my house, and both my brothers are super into jumping around. So we'll go out for like an hour. Honestly, like we go out there every day for like an hour. We have a throw mat, and you kind of just mess around. Sometimes you have friends come over, you put on some music, you jam out, go swim, whatever. So I enjoy that sort of stuff. A little bit like less schedule, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do you still figure skate at all, or you'd mentioned that earlier?
Yeah, I don't do it in the way I used to. I will still go out. Like, we actually have a little pond behind our house. So almost every year when the pond freezes over, I'll go out with my brothers. They'll play hockey and I'll kind of just mess around, do some old tricks.
That
and
makes it convenient.
Get some clips just kind of for fun.
I actually saw your Instagram post and you're pretty, I was amazed by it. It's like.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm definitely a little rusty for sure, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. Nightlife. What are you into at night? I mean, are you just kick back, relaxed? Are you going to raves? What's that look like for Megan?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like changed when I first came on the team a little bit. Meeting everybody new. I have 2 teammates who are girls as well. So we definitely enjoy going out a little bit. Typically just like after comps, like they'll usually do like a riders party or hang out at a club or something like that. So we would go out and do a little bit of that, but typically like when we're on the road training and competing, we don't have a ton of time. So we come back, you're exhausted from skiing all day. We just kind of sit down, watch some shows or go out, explore a little bit, but nothing like too crazy.
Skiing has taken you around the world. Do you have a favorite spot that you'd like to go and visit, or a favorite spot to ski?
Yeah, I get this question a lot.
Do you?
It's hard because there's so many places we've been to, and like because we've seen a lot of ski hills, I know a little bit about the parks for sure. I wouldn't say I know a ton about like all the locations because we don't really get a chance to explore all that much. My favorite place probably in terms of skiing and overall atmosphere would be Lax, Switzerland. For some reason, every time I've been there, it's been bluebird, 5 degrees. So you're skiing in slush. Everybody's out there having a good time. The park's super long, so you can kind of just cruise down, hit a whole bunch of different features. They have a lot of different slopes too, so it's kind of just an overall good mountain to rip around on. I would say that's probably my favorite.
And the Alps are beautiful. Like, just
beautiful.
being there.
Like, you get to the top. Yeah, you get to the top and you look around and it's almost 360 mountains everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Mm-hmm.
No, it's totally amazing. I've been lucky that my career has taken me to some of those spots and just taking that time in. And I would suggest to you, take advantage as much as you can while you're doing that, you know? Get out,
Totally.
check it out, get
No.
involved in the culture, see what they have to offer too. It's definitely it was life-changing for me, for sure.
Yeah.
You've done quite a few interviews. Do you ever have a question that you're like, fuck, I wish they would ask me this, or why didn't they ask me this? Is there that one question that like nobody ever asks? And
I feel like I get a lot of questions, and I never really had like a question that stands out to me, like wondering why people didn't ask it. I think just in general, a lot of people aren't super aware with the sport itself and like all the ins and outs of how it works. And... You're actually way better.
Really?
Way
Okay.
better than most people. So for sure, it's a difficult sport. Like it's hard to watch too. Like I think the one thing people don't realize, especially, is with slopestyle. Like even my parents watch and they're like, "How come so and so didn't win?" And like freestyle skiing has all these little like picky things. Like if you fall off a rail, like even 2 inches early, that's it. Your run's over.
Right.
So people don't really like understand all the aspects of how it works, and then they get kind of frustrated because they're like, this is so hard to watch, like why isn't this person winning or whatever. Yeah, so I think it's just like hard to really understand some of the inner workings of how it all kind of functions.
Yeah, no, it is tricky, and it's tricky to keep up with it too, you know. Like I wouldn't want to be a judge in it, that's for damn sure. So
no. Yeah, and it's weird, it's like getting to a point now where like people are also confused because there'll be people who are doing like 1900s, right? But then there's people now who are learning to like revert their spins while they're in the air. Like you also see Alex Hall, yeah, in big air, and like Teal Harley, he's like one of my teammates, and he does a triple where he stops his rotation and comes back to switch, And everybody's like, oh, but he did like less spinning, but he
Like,
makes
do you
it
understand
look so
how
smooth.
hard it is to stop momentum
Yeah.
in the air? Like,
People just don't really
why
realize or,
defying
like,
gravity?
appreciate the full extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody like in the sport makes it look so smooth.
I know.
Like you wouldn't even tell.
That's what blows me away for sure, is how smooth
Yeah.
it looks. If somebody came to you with $100 million and they said, hey, we want you to design the biggest ski event ever, what would that look like? Would it involve music? Like what kind of atmosphere would be there? And
Yeah, I mean, there was an event growing up for me at my local hill, which is Mount St. Louis. And one of my coaches now, he actually was like an ex-pro skier, and he had his own event called the Sandy Beauville Invitational. And I just found this event to be the coolest thing ever because it wasn't taken too seriously. It wasn't crazy competitive, but they would come in and they would take the time to build a course that's big enough, that has creative features. Like, for instance, one year they literally had a pond skim that went into a rail. So people would pond skim the entire thing and then hit the rail, and somebody did a double backflip out of a rail after hitting a pond skim.
wow.
So it's just like kind of fun events like that where you have different features and everybody's just kind of together in like a ride fun jam style kind of setup. Like there's not any strict prizes. It's just like, hey, let's vote together collectively for like the best skier and just throw out some like swag prizes, whatever. Because it just gets everybody together throwing new tricks that people wouldn't expect and just kind of having a good time.
So it'd just be a laid back atmosphere, that sort of vibe.
Yeah, totally.
For
Yeah,
sure.
like a
Those have always
progressive,
been my
laid-back
funnest events
atmosphere.
too. It's just,
Yeah, definitely. I know like they always have like the pond skim events too at different mountains. I don't know if you guys do it in the States, but in Canada it's a big thing, and like around Easter, and you get just like people coming out who are just like, you know, in bathing suits or stupid costumes and like coming in with like,
yeah.
I don't know, cardboard boxes and all this stupid
A bunch
stuff.
of
and
the
it's just
ski
kinda fun to
resorts
watch.
here at the end of the year do like a costume run like type thing, and people are out there in
Yeah.
bikinis. It gets pretty wild. It's a good time.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's fun.
Yeah. So we're gonna get a little bit more personal here. I'm gonna ask what your love life's like. I mean, you got a boyfriend or single or?
Yeah, I actually do have a boyfriend,
Okay.
and it's kind of funny because my boyfriend lives in Italy, which isn't so traditional.
Is he an American by chance?
No, he's not, but I know who you're thinking of, Louis Vito.
Okay. Well, the reason why I'm
don't know.
asking is
Yeah.
I'm actually secretly a scout for the United States Olympic team. So I was just wondering if you got dual citizenship, if you would consider coming over and competing for USA.
That's funny. No, but there is actually one U.S. snowboarder, Louis Vito, who just switched
Okay.
over to the Italian
Yeah, I
team.
know who he
Yeah,
is, though.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah. So my boyfriend does half pipe snowboard. He's on the same team as Louis, and we met at a training camp and kind of just connected. And it's kind of funny because I always joke with like my friends and family that like if I had a boyfriend back home, I'd probably see him just as much because I'm never home.
Right.
So it works out well. We're on the same circuit and kind of run into each other here and there, and it's good.
No, that's good. I was more trying to get you on the American side. Normally we don't ask love life questions here, but doing my best, I'm trying to recruit. So so
That's
we're
funny.
running through the time. We've been on for an hour. I'm sorry we had some technical difficulties there kind of in the middle. So we're definitely going to have to do this
no
again.
worries.
But I don't know if we really got into this. The main purpose why I started this podcast is I grew up in a mountain town. It's currently where I'm living now, Evergreen, Colorado. It's an amazing place. The next time you're here in Colorado, you definitely got to stop by. We got an awesome studio to hang out at and stuff. And
Yeah, I'll have to check it out for
it's
sure.
an amazing spot. And maybe I'm just partial to it because I grew up here. But like I said, I've traveled all around the world and everything. And when I came back after not being here for a certain amount of years, like I think it was close to 20 years, I was shocked at how I grew up in the outdoors, whether it was camping, fishing, hiking, skiing, all the stuff that I did as a kid and was fortunate enough to do. And I noticed this huge influx in people using those spaces, but not treating them the way that they should be, right? Like basically trashing them. Mm-hmm. So the main purpose of this podcast was kind of help raise some awareness, educate people, have fun conversations with guests like you that come on that have a platform and are doing amazing things too. So it's not all about this, but one thing that I'm trying to do with this podcast is have a good time, number one, and help raise some awareness for some of these spaces so we can preserve them, right? So national parks, mountain ranges, that sort of thing. What are some common things that you see when people come and recreate in your guys' areas that they could be doing better so we're preserving these places for future generations?
Mm-hmm. First off, that's super cool. I think that's awesome that you guys are kind of focusing a little bit on that. I'd say for me, like being part of a mountain sport, something that you certainly see a lot of is just people with garbage and all that at the top of the mountain where they just don't care. They'll just throw it or whatever, leave it on the ground when they're on their way out because it's not as accessible to go all the way up to the lodge and like drop it off in the garbage or bring it all the way down. So definitely there's like a little bit of that stuff that would be nice to see people kind of clean up on. It's also kind of cool, like when we travel, you see different ways that countries handle the situation. So like, for instance, when we go to Switzerland, when you're skiing up on the glacier, they won't use salt at all for the like takeoffs and the landings, which we usually do to kind of like keep the courses running smoother and easier for us to hit. But they won't use salt at all because they want to preserve the glacier and make sure that it's not melting. So I think it's cool to kind of see how people are doing their job to kind of preserve the environment. Yeah.
No, I think that those are all key things. People bring up trash all the time. That's a huge thing here in the state of Colorado currently. People just think that other people are out there to clean up after them. And yeah, especially when you get into like a national park or some sort of public land. They don't have the infrastructure to go and clean up after everybody. That's not how it is. So, and we're just trying to educate people or teach them some stuff that they don't know. But I didn't realize that with salt, and I never really thought about that because basically you're just essentially melting the snow, right, with it. I mean, that's what we use to clean up the roads here and all. I'm sure it has an impact on rivers and fresh water, fish and all that sort of stuff too. At some point, I would think it has some detriment to them.
It must, for sure. Another cool thing too is I know that they've been working on this now and they've been talking about it the last couple of years, and I think it goes into effect the beginning of the next season, which is that they're going to ban fluoro waxes for all competition stuff because it's way harsher on the environment. So apparently they're actually going to do testing like at competitions and stuff with little like radar guns to see if people are using fluoro wax. Because they want to take out that portion. Yeah, which is pretty like full on. But it's cool to see that they're going to those sorts of lengths to make sure that we can kind of preserve our sport and keep things going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always wondered here with just like, for example, in the summertime, we have so many fly fishermen and people that are in the water and stuff. And you have to wear sunscreen here because of the altitude, right? They'll get burned like super quick. But I've always wondered like the impact that has on water and, all those things are full of chemicals and all that sort of shit. So that's something I need to look into, but it's kind of same sort of thing, right? I mean, it's wild to think that those little minute things or things that you're used to doing every day can have an impact.
Yeah, it all kind of just adds up. Right. So you have to watch out for it.
Well, we're wishing you a ton of luck at the Olympics. I'll definitely be watching for you now that we've had this conversation. I know you personally now, so I really appreciate your time. What we know that you're headed there tomorrow. Outside of the Olympics, what's next for you? I'm sure that you're just focusing on that right now, but what's coming up next for you? Do you have anything you want to plug or anything you got going on?
Yeah. So obviously the games right now are a big focus for me and just trying to get through those. And after that, we still have a pretty full-on season. I know we have like 2 weeks off, and then we've got 3 more World Cups, which is pretty crazy. And then for me, my next step is I'm hoping, I don't know if you've heard of Audi 9s, but they
No.
do an event through like Audi, and basically they just build this crazy, you should look it up. Look up Audi 9s on Instagram. They build these crazy
Like Audi,
courses also for
the
like,
car company, or okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I think it might have been your
so they
accent that.
Yeah, maybe.
That's awesome.
Audi,
Yeah.
I don't know. And they do it for like mountain biking too. So they build these really crazy courses, huge jumps, and they build crazy features like spear, snowballs, and
Oh,
stuff
cool.
like that that you can like transfer and hit, and like big boosting like hips and tunnels and little like castle features and all this. And I've been invited the last 2 years, and I haven't been able to go the last 2 years. So I'm really hoping that this year I'll be able to go, and hopefully with a couple of my teammates, and just shred and work on some new tricks, get some clips, and really just kind of shred.
That's awesome. Where is that event held?
So last year they did it in Crane, Montana. So
Amazing.
pretty cool.
Well, Megan, this has been a lot of fun. I truly appreciate your time. Good luck with all your adventure, travel, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, the next time you're in Colorado, come visit us.
Thank you again, and I definitely will have to. Next year for X Games, I'll come a little early, and
Absolutely.
we can jump in the booth together.
Yeah, or on your way back, whatever. Or we could come up to you too. So yeah.
Sick. That's awesome.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Megan, thank you again. Good luck. Go crush it.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. Also, if you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com. The Mountainside Podcast is now available on Patreon. So if you'd like ad-free listening, behind-the-scenes footage, or maybe you just want to help support what we do here at the Mountainside Podcast, please take a moment and visit patreon.com/themountainside. We are also brought to you by Uncanna CBD. If you're looking to trust a natural solution, then look no further than Uncanna to help you curb anxiety, get better sleep, helping with long-term pain, joint mobility, muscle recovery, and many other benefits, then you need to try a full spectrum or broad spectrum CBD. And the only brand that I trust is Uncanna. I use their products daily, and I can attest to you of how well it works. Uncanna is also veteran owned and operated, and is just an incredible company that lives in the outdoors. Whether they're sponsoring professional rock climbers, dirt bikers, skiers, and many other athletes, helping veteran communities get outside, this is an incredible company with an incredible product. Because they are a sponsor here at the Mountainside Podcast, and you're listening to this ad right now, you can receive 10% off your entire order every time that you visit uncanna.com. All you have to do is simply enter promo code TMS at checkout to receive 10% off your entire CBD order, apparel, canine products, or whatever Uncanna has to offer, just by simply typing in the code TMS at checkout. Once again, that's promo code TMS at uncanna.com. We are also brought to you by Onnit. Onnit is an amazing company based right here in the USA, helping humans reach peak performance mentally and physically. Listen, this is not just another supplement company with the same old, same old. Onnit's diverse lineup of products and supplements are backed by science and research, and that's what truly makes this company so amazing. Onnit offers supplements to help sports performance, energy levels, your mood, sleep, brain function, focus, immune system, digestive health, and that's not all. Onnit also has amazing fitness programs, equipment, apparel, and you can now save 10% on all of it. Just visit onnit.com, that's ONNIT.com, and use the promo code TMS at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order. We are also brought to you by the #1 online outfitter for outdoor sports. I'm talking about Backcountry and the incredible brands that they carry like North Face, Patagonia, Garmin, Yeti, and the list truly goes on and on. You can find just about anything that you need for camping, hiking, biking, climbing, running, kayaking, all your snow sports, and much, much more. Backcountry's got you covered when you want to get outside and enjoy yourself on or in some incredible gear. Because Backcountry is a sponsor of the Mountainside Podcast, you can get an exclusive link that'll give you backdoor pricing. I'm talking 60 to 70% off on select items and discounted pricing site-wide. All you have to do is visit themountainsidepodcast.com, click on the affiliates page, and look for the Backcountry logo, or simply open the show notes wherever you're listening to the podcast right now and look for the Backcountry link.